The maintenance bay of Station Corvath hummed with the usual cacophony of distant engines and recycling systems. But Lyra Venn noticed the silence first. In 3 years of working aboard the multi-species orbital platform, she'd learned that silence in a place that should be noisy meant trouble. She rounded the corner near the auxiliary power grid, toolbox in hand, and stopped dead. A semicircle of Rathan warriors blocked the corridor, 7 of them, their muscled frames covered in the traditional ceremonial scars of their warrior caste. Each stood nearly 8 feet tall, their looping faces eerily still, amber eyes fixed on something beneath the main console bank. Lyra's breath caught. The Rathan were known across 3 star systems as the galaxy's most formidable predators. Their pack structure was ancient, their honor codes unbreakable, and their capacity for violence legendary. Seeing 7 of them motionless was like watching a frozen avalanche. You knew the potential for destruction was there, coiled and waiting. "What's going on?" Lyra asked, her voice steady despite the thunder of her heartbeat. The nearest Rathan, his gray fur streaked with white, turned his massive head toward her. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Lyra had repaired his ship's life support systems 2 months ago, but he said nothing. None of them did. They simply watched her, and then, with synchronized precision, they all looked back at the console. Then she heard it. A whimper. Soft, terrified, unmistakably young. Lyra set down her toolbox and approached slowly. The warriors didn't move, but their formation shifted ever so slightly, creating a narrow path for her, an invitation. Or perhaps a command. She knelt beside the console bank and peered into the shadows beneath. 2 enormous eyes stared back at her, reflecting the dim emergency lighting. The cub couldn't have been more than 4 cycles old, still covered in downy fur, ears too large for its head, trembling so hard that Lyra could hear its tiny claws scratching against the metal floor. "Hey there," Lyra whispered, keeping her voice low and gentle. "It's okay." The cub whimpered again, pressing itself further into the corner where 2 consoles met. Its fear was palpable, rolling off it in waves that even Lyra's human senses could detect. She glanced back at the warriors. They remained motionless, a wall of muscle and ritual scars, but their eyes held something she hadn't expected: desperation. These apex predators, these warriors who had conquered 17 worlds, were desperate. "Why won't you help him?" Lyra asked. The white-streaked warrior finally spoke, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated through the deck plates. "Sek has broken caste law. He hid during the challenge of maturity. Cowardice cannot be touched by warrior hands, or the shame spreads like disease. He must choose his own death, or ... The warrior's massive jaw clenched. Or another must claim him. Lyra's mind raced through everything she knew about Rathan culture. The challenge of maturity was sacred. Young Rathan had to face a trial of courage to earn their place in the pack. Failure meant exile or death. There were no exceptions. "But he's just a child," Lyra said. "He is Rathan," another warrior growled. "Our laws are absolute." Lyra looked back at the cub at Sek. His whole body shook with terror, and she saw something in those wide eyes that transcended species. He was scared. He was alone. And despite what these warriors claimed, he was absolutely a child who'd made a child's mistake. What happens if someone claims him? Lyra asked. The white-streaked warrior's ears twitched. If a warrior of another species claims a shamed cub before sundown, they become the cub's pack. The cub takes the name of the new pack and is reborn. But no alien has ever invoked this right. The burden is ... Bull quotes. He paused, searching for words. Immense. The cub becomes your responsibility entirely. His failures are yours. His dishonor is yours. Forever. Forever. The word hung in the recycled air like a threat. Lyra had come to Station Corvath to escape responsibility. After the incident on Mars Colony, after she'd failed to save the reactor core, failed to prevent 17 deaths, she'd taken this remote posting specifically because it required nothing but routine maintenance. No lives depending on her decisions. No weight of command. She looked at Sek again. The cub's breathing was rapid, panicked. In his eyes, she saw the same terror she'd seen in the faces of the colonists she couldn't save. The same helplessness, but this time, she could do something. "I claim him," Lyra said. The words came out stronger than she felt. The 7 warriors stirred, a collective intake of breath that sounded like distant thunder. "Human," the white-streaked warrior said slowly, "you understand what you accept?" I understand that a scared kid is hiding under a console, and a bunch of adults are standing around deciding whether that justifies letting him die. Lyra stood up, meeting the warrior's amber gaze without flinching. On my world, we have a saying, be the person your dog thinks you are. We judge ourselves by how we treat the vulnerable. So yes, I claim him. He's mine now. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, as one, all 7 warriors placed their right hands over their hearts, a gesture Lyra recognized as the highest form of respect in Vrathan culture. The human Lyra Ven has spoken the claim, the white-streaked warrior announced, his voice carrying the weight of ritual. Sek of the discarded name is now Sek of Pakven. May the stars witness. May the stars witness, the other warriors repeated. They turned and filed out, their heavy footsteps fading down the corridor. Lyra waited until they were gone, then knelt again beside the console. Sek? She said softly. They're gone. You're safe now. The cub didn't move immediately. But slowly, hesitantly, he began to creep forward. When he emerged into the light, Lyra saw he was even smaller than she'd thought, barely reaching her knee, his gray fur matted with dust and fear. He looked up at her with those enormous eyes and whimpered a single word in broken standard. Safe? Lyra felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been frozen since Mars Colony. She reached out slowly, and when Sek didn't flinch, she gently placed her hand on his head. Yeah, buddy, she whispered. You're safe. We're packed now. Sek pressed against her leg, his trembling beginning to subside. As Lyra stood there in the maintenance bay with the alien cub clinging to her, she realized that perhaps she hadn't come to Station Korvath to escape responsibility after all. Perhaps she'd come here to remember what it felt like to save someone. The stars, as the Vrathan said, were witnessing.